What's up today, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Zach, and today we are trying out something new. We are going to do a commander deck tech for my favorite commander deck. So, as you can see, our commanders for this deck tech is Ishai, Ojutai, Dragon Speaker, and Vile Smasher the Fierce. So, when these two came out, in their commander set, I was most excited for a greenless commander, okay? And I have always been a control player. So when I seen these two and started thinking about them, they clicked for me as a great control pair. And yes, I know most people probably look at them and it's like, why them together? Well, from my experience in my commander pods and the way I play commander, I've seen that there's usually two types of players, right? There are the gun-ho ones that just want to cast spells, you know, pedal to the metal the whole time. Which, those decks, Ishai comes down and slaughters. If you can stop him from dying, he will wipe out a pod very quickly. Especially if you can play him early, he will clean house. Then, you have the other kind of players, which are, you know, more laid back, more haymakers. Like, they kind of play to the late game and then they throw these big bombs at you, these battle cruiser magic, right? Well, Vile Smasher comes down and really hates on them pretty well, especially in a control package, because we disrupt them doing their thing. As we do that, we are pinging them with damage, and they've probably gotten hit a few times along the way getting to that point in the game. So that's a quick little overview of why these two. Now, the strategy for the deck is, as I said, we are a control deck. We are disrupting them with some interesting things you'll see in a second. And our final plan is to conquer them with Command the Dreadhorde. And you might be like, why that? You'll see as we go. So our first step is our Planeswalkers. As you can see, Command the Dreadhorde reanimates Planeswalkers, and our name has, you know, Spark, as in Planeswalker Spark, in the title. So our Planeswalkers are mainly here for card advantage, utility, and disruption. That's where Teferi, Narset, and Ashiok come in, and they're all the 3-mana Hate Bear versions. Teferi can remove stuff that annoys us and speed up our board wipes. Narset is card advantage and anti-card advantage for our opponents, and Ashiok prevents tutoring and is graveyard hate. Then Dak Faden is probably one of my favorite Planeswalkers, and the fact that he died in Warrior of the Spark still bugs me, but we won't talk about that. He's mainly here as ramp and for his plus. His bottom ability probably never matters, and I'm fine with that. If we have him in Narset, you can kind of start to see where the thief part of our name comes in. Then we have Big Teferi, because he is amazing in any format, and especially if you are a slow controlling deck. Now we get to our creatures, and here you can notice our game plan. We are trying to give our spells lifelink. We have not a whole lot, but a decent amount of damaged base removal. And I'm very particular about it because when I want something dead, it has to die. So no lightning bolts and stuff here because they can't always kill stuff. But we'll get to that in a second. So Gearhawk is my spirit animal, being able to cast any of our instances at whatever time we want and get a big old body, deal. Hostage Taker lets us continue our ramping because no green in Commander equals hard to deal with. Notion Thief hates on their draw and is a big player in our deck. And we got the Stalwart Slayer, and he prevents damage spells would do to permanents we control and us. So Blasphemous Axe, for example, wouldn't board wipe our creatures. and Command the Dreadhorde that you've already seen no longer deals damage to us. Then he also tacks on 1 additional damage on top of all of our damage spells, which is kind of relevant, but not particularly. We have Soulfire Grandmaster, which offers a little bit of combo potential, and you could very easily fit in some infinite combos with him if you wanted to into this deck, but I tend to lean away from infinite in like more casual commander, which is where I would consider this. This is like high power casual commander. Then we have the Scroll Wielder, which is recursion for our instances and sorceries and gives them lifelink. More of what we want to do, because him and Soulfire both also let us prevent the damage from Command the Dreadhorde. And that's pretty much our creature plan. That's all the creatures in the deck. Then we move on to our sorceries. So as you've seen, we have Thief in the title, and Notion Thief, and Narset, and we had Hall Breacher until he died, which I hate commander bans, but that's a discussion for another video. So we have Kurovov's Fury. I'm sure I said that wrong, but it lets you will for yourself or whoever else you pick as a friend, and they get 1 extra card. Or you can just have it throw damage at them equal to the cards in their hand. So Vial Smasher already smacks somebody for 5. Then you can smack them for the cards in their hand. Or if you have one of your will thieves out, you can do that, let them will, and get advantage. Whispering Madness is just Windfall, but has Siphon or whatever it's called. Burning Inquiry, everybody draws 3, discards 3 at random. Windfall, kind of the key staple in the deck, or for any will deck. Winds of Change is each player shuffles their hand back in and draws that many cards, which for 1 mana, very good. I would probably lean more towards a Wheel of Fortune if it wasn't well over $100 now. And Echo of Eons, because we're willing, get it in the yard, and it's just a 3 mana will that gets everybody back to 7, and it resets the graveyards, which we don't really use our yard anyways. Then, for the next step in our sorceries is our sweepers. So, as I've mentioned, we are trying to throw some damage, mainly for bonus life gain and that kind of thing. So we have Blast Act, Fiery Confluence, and Rolling Earthquake. Rolling Earthquake is particularly fun because it hits players as well. So with Vial Smasher out, Big X smacks everybody for damage, then Vial Smasher bullies an extra person. So 1 person gets hit twice. Fiery Confluence is probably the most utility out of the 3 because it lets us hate on artifacts. And then we have our full-on hard sweepers with Toxic Deluge, Damnation, and Damn. All 3 of these just blow up the board if we want them to for very cheap. And we even have very cool art for the Damnation. Then we move on to our utility pieces, being Scheming Symmetry, Demonic Tutor, and Grim Tutor. So as I've mentioned before, we are not a super competitive deck, so we're not tutoring all the time for combo pieces. But because we are trying to be a control deck, we need to be able to grab what we need to grab when we need to grab it. And I personally love Scheming Symmetry in Commander because the political aspect. I think the ability to be like, hey, we've been cool this whole game, right? Let's work together a little bit. Is also very good. Then we have Reconstruct History because it can get back an artifact, an enchantment, an instant, sorcery, and planeswalker from our graveyard to our hand, which is pretty much everything we care about. We don't play many creatures, so that part doesn't matter to us. We don't need it. It doesn't need to be there, so that's fine. 4 mana, get 1 of everything? Sure. Then, our final sorceries are our finisher, which is Torment of Hellfire and Command the Dreadhorde. Torment is super mean with Vial Smasher, and Command the Dreadhorde, as you've seen, is kind of our key card. We are controlling, willing, feeding the graveyards, hoping to get one of our lifelinking guys on the board and then cast this. And that should very easily finish the game. Then, as I've talked about, we are a control deck. So any control deck cannot be complete without a counters package. So we have Disallow, Arcane Denial, Render Silent, Dovin's Veto, Dread in the Lock, Swan Song, Counterspell, Narset's Reversal, Force of Will, Fierce Guardianship, and Mana Drain. I mean, what else is there really to say about them? Disallow lets us counter abilities, including Planeswalkers or ETBs. Arcane Denial is card draw for our person we're countering, but, as I've mentioned, we like to kind of take away card draw, so that's not that big of a deal. I personally love Render Silent in Commander. If you can cast it easily, I think you should play it. Sometimes that first spell shows you what the opponent is trying to do this turn, and you can just be like, yeah. No, you're done. Wait until next turn. Dovin's Veto, because Commander is mainly a spell haymaker kind of format. Dread in the Lock is spot removal or counterspell, so always great. Swan Song, cheap, efficient. That's all you need to say. Same thing with counterspell. Narset's Reversal is anything you need it to be, really. Like, you counter Kodama's Reach, you ramp, you counter their finisher, you probably win. I mean, it doesn't actually counter, same thing. Force of Will, Fierce Guardianship, just free counter spells. And Mana Drain gives us bonus mana for our X spells. Then we finish off our removal plan with Deadly Relic, free exile removal, Swords to Plowshares, exile removal, Path to Exile, exile removal, Utter End and Anguish Unmaking, exile removal for anything we want it to take out, minus lands. And as you can see, I do not like things in the graveyard. In my Commander pod, everyone loves graveyard stuff, so you cannot allow them to sit in the graveyard. Sea Rift, because it is the best sweeper you can probably play in Commander. When you're dealing with 4 people, sometimes just resetting them, or when you're dealing with 3 opponents, sometimes just resetting them is your only option. Fire Covenant is pay X life, X damage to any number of things that are X damage to any number of creatures, divided as you choose. So you just ping off all their little guys. And as you've seen with our lifelinking guys or the Slayer, it gets bonus. Either we gain all that life back or we get 1 bonus damage from everything, so we have to pay less life. Magma Opus is 4 damage, card draw, good with Gearhawk, draws 2 cards. What more do you want, man? It's just another big, punchy card. Same thing with Lorehold Command. I kind of like the indestructible part of it, and the versatility of removal, blocker, whatever you want. Then we finish off with our utility instances, which is Vamp Tutor, Teferi's Protection, and then the closest thing we have to a combo in the deck, which I've never actually done, considering I've played this deck a lot, kind of says something. Ad Nauseam and Angel's Grace. So you might be looking at the curve of the deck and be like, man, you're crazy for playing Ad Nauseam. But we have enough card advantage in the deck that a lot of the time, if we don't need to cast it, we don't need to cast it. So it's very easy to just be like, I'll just hold on to it for now. Heck, you could just discard it and cast it with Gearhawk if you wanted. It doesn't really matter. It's mainly just here because Angel's Grace and it lets you draw your deck, and then you can will and kill everybody. Like Angel's Grace, Ad Nauseam, draw everything, Windfall, everybody draws a bunch of cards, and then you just do any other will, and they all die. Yes, you have to figure out how to get that other will, but that shouldn't be too hard for this deck. Then we have our artifacts, which is basically all ramp and a Sensei's Divining Top. We used to be playing Elsha in the deck and could do Elsha with top and just kind of draw a bunch of cards. But Elsha has just gotten cut as we've gotten more and more of these spells get lifelink cards. So we're mainly just ramping with our artifacts, not trying to do anything too insane, just making sure we have our colors and we have enough mana to do what we want to do. Then our very few enchantments, Ristic Study because card draw and annoying. Smothering Tide goes with our thiefy plan. Then we have Underworld Breach, which is that utility card that just comes down and lets us reuse any of our removal or sweepers or big finishers again out of our graveyard for very little cost to us. Especially with us willing so much, our graveyard's usually pretty full, and this is another way for us to reuse some of those cards we probably didn't want to discard, but they weren't worth not willing. So yeah, the card's pretty good. We don't really use it for the combo-y plan. Now, it would go really well with the Ad Nauseam Angel's Grace when I was telling you about just a second ago. So that's pretty much it. And last but not least, we have the mana base, which is fairly simple. It's the 6 Shocklands, a bunch of fetches, the 3 Triomes, a bunch of 5 color lands like Command Tower, Reflecting Pool, Mystic Confluence, those kind of things. One of each of our basics, along with Field of the Dead, and the Battle Bond lands? I don't know what they're called. The multiplayer land cycle from Battle Bond. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the deck, guys. That is all 100 cards of my 4-color control deck. So if this sounded like something you want to take a closer look at and maybe try out for yourself, there will be a deck list in the description, and let me know what you all think of seeing more Commander deck techs here on the channel. Like I said before, Commander is my main Magic format, or at least the one I like the most, so I really want to find ways to get it more incorporated into the channel. So if that sounds like something you are interested in, make sure to let me know and to stick around. So like and subscribe. It is greatly appreciated. And with all that being said, I will see you guys in whatever we do next. Later. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, why not like and subscribe? It really helps me out. And don't forget to hit that bell so that you get notified anytime I post a new video. If you enjoyed this one, why not check out this video or this video? And I'll see you guys in whatever we do next. Later.